Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sam Lowney YouTube channel. Now, you might be looking at this title of the video and saying, Sam, what the hell has happened to you? Has this property guy lost the plot or what? Well, why are we talking about Monopoly? But stay with me, because today we're diving into something I'm genuinely very passionate about. And it's not just about a board game. It's about financial literacy, teaching our kids about money, assets, liabilities, setting them up for the real world, for real success. And Monopoly, that game, sitting in your cupboard, gathering dust that you play probably just once a year at Christmas at best, is one of the most powerful financial education tools ever created. And there's spin-off games as well, like Junior Monopoly, Payday, Cash Flow, and many more. And we'll get into all of that. I'm Sam Lowney. I've been in property for 25 years, worked as an estate agent, investor, developer, landlord, lender, and now I run a property finance brokerage called Merryoaks Property Finance. And I can tell you, hand on heart, so much of what I understand about property, about cash flow, about strategy, about negotiation, I learned playing Monopoly as a kid. I played Monopoly regularly growing up, particularly with one of my best mates' dads who took the game seriously. Trevor, God bless you. We did not play in a boring way, but in a way that made us think. And those sessions around the board, rolling dice, buying properties, making deals, they genuinely have helped me understand the world as I grew up. They certainly helped me in many ways as I now work in the property industry daily. And I remember one game in particular, like with one of my best mates, I'm gonna name him, it's Briggsy. It was one particular evening, it stuck in my mind. And he sold all of his properties and he had loads of money. Yes, loads of money, like the Harry Enfield character, loads of money. I went to see him the other day in Guildford, it was brilliant. Anyway, back to the story. So Briggsy sold all of his properties, he had all this money. And I remember Will's dad looking at him, just smiling. I remember that so vividly. And I remember what happened next. Slowly but surely, as the rounds went on, all that money just went slowly, disappeared and evaporated. He didn't have any income producing assets to keep topping it up. So he looked really wealthy, but the financial literacy wasn't there as to what he'd gone and done. And I'm not sure whether he remembers that to this day. I'll probably have to ask him, but I do. And it made me think, and it hasn't left my mind since. I mean, we must have been 8 or 9 years old. I mean, what a life lesson. So today, yes, we're talking about why Monopoly is brilliant, why financial literacy for kids is absolutely crucial, and what other games and books can help give your children the financial education that schools simply don't provide. Let's get into it. Before we dive into Monopoly itself, let's talk about why this conversation is so important. We have a financial literacy crisis in this country and in most Western countries, to be honest. I see a lot of landlord bashing, business bashing, profit is a dirty word bashing, and we're not gonna get into all of that today, but financial literacy in our society, in my opinion, is absolutely essential. Our schools teach kids advanced calculus and they teach them about oxbow lakes and Pythagoras theorem and the periodic table, but they don't teach them about mortgages. They don't teach them about savings. They don't teach them about interest rates. They don't teach them about compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world. They don't teach them about the difference between assets and liabilities. They don't teach them about cash flow and about investing, about wealth building. Think about that just for 1 second. We send our kids out into the world at 18 with almost zero understanding of how money actually works. Then we send them off to uni to get student loans and bank overdrafts. And then we're surprised when they rack up credit card debt and make terrible financial decisions, terrible credit scores. I see it all the time. And they struggle to build any kind of financial security. Then we blame the system. I'm not blaming schools entirely. The curriculum is set by the government. And honestly, many teachers probably don't have this knowledge themselves because they were never taught it either. It's a systemic problem that's going to be going on for generations unless we do something about it. But here's the thing, as parents, as aunts, as uncles and grandparents, we can actually change this for our kids in our lives at home. We can give them the financial education that they're not getting anywhere else. And it doesn't have to be boring lectures about compound interest rates. It can be fun, engaging, and built around games. That's the best way that kids learn. They actually enjoy playing these games. When a child understands from the age of between 8 to 10, the difference between an asset that puts money in your pocket and a liability that takes money out your pocket, they're already 90% of other adults that they're surrounded with. When they understand that cash flow matters much more than how much you earn, they're set up for success in ways that their peers simply are not. Now, I genuinely believe that financial literacy is one of the greatest gifts you can give any child. It's more valuable than most of what they'll learn at school, because it's knowledge that they'll use every single day of their adult lives. Yes, love is important, but financial literacy is a close second. And the beautiful thing, teaching kids about money through games is absolutely fun. They don't even realize they're learning, and they're just having a great time, bankrupting their siblings, negotiating property deals, charging rent, and winning at the end. It's absolutely brilliant. Right, so let's talk about Monopoly specifically and why it's such a powerful educational tool. And I'm talking about proper Monopoly, the full game, not some quick 30-minute version. The real game that takes hours and teaches real lessons. First lesson, property is valuable. From the moment you start playing Monopoly, you understand that owning property gives you power and income. Every time someone lands on your property, they pay you rent. That's passive income in its simplest form. You're not doing anything active when you land there, you just own it, and the money flows to you. That's the fundamental principle of property investing right there. You buy an asset, someone else uses it, they pay you for that privilege. Whether it's Park Lane in Monopoly or a 3-bedroom house in Bedford, and you may have seen the previous video about Universal Studios going into Bedford. If not, go check it out. But ultimately what I'm saying is the principle is exactly the same. Second lesson, location matters. Location, location, location. Even kids playing Monopoly quickly work out that Mayfair and Park Lane are worth more than Old Kent Road and Whitechapel Road. Why? Because location, location, location. The properties in better positions on the board generate more rent. They're more valuable and they're more powerful. And if you click subscribe or the thumbs up button, it helps me grow this channel and keeps you tuned in for all the new videos coming up every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Location in Monopoly is the same in real life property. A house in London is worth more than a house in Hull. Not because the bricks are different, because of the location. Teaching kids this concept early means they understand one of the fundamental principles of real estate. Location, location, location. Super important. Third lesson, cash flow versus assets. Here's where it gets really interesting. You can own half the board in Monopoly, but if you don't have cash in hand to pay rent when you land on someone else's property, you are in trouble. And I've seen kids and adults own loads of properties but still go bankrupt because they spent all their cash and couldn't pay the bills when they came due. Classic. That's exactly what happens in real life. You can be asset rich but cash poor. You can have a profitable business but with poor cash flow and go bankrupt. You can have a loss-making business, but with positive cash flow and stay in business. In real life, you can own multiple properties worth millions, but if you can't cover your mortgage payments this month because you don't have cash flow, you're in serious trouble. Cash flow is king. Assets are great, but liquidity matters. This is an important lesson. Fourth lesson, investing in improvements pays off. In Monopoly, when you buy houses and hotels, your rent goes up massively. You're investing capital into your assets to increase the income it generates. That's exactly what property developers and investors do in real life. That's what I'm surrounded with every day at Merryoaks. You buy a tired property, you refurbish it, you add value, and suddenly it generates much higher rents or sells for much more. The fifth lesson, negotiation skills. This is huge. The best Monopoly players aren't necessarily the ones who get lucky with the dice. They're the ones who negotiate brilliant deals, and Trevor used to always do that. I'll trade you Vine Street for Marlborough Street plus £200. I'll let you out some rent this time if you promise not to build on your greens. I mean, these negotiations teach kids how to communicate, how to create win-win scenarios, how to think strategically, and what they want and what others want. Those are life skills that go way beyond money. Sixth lesson, risk management. Do you spend all your money buying every single property that you land on, or do you keep some cash in reserve? Do you rush to build hotels, or do you stay conservative with some houses? Do you mortgage properties to raise cash, or do you stay debt-free? Unbelievable questions that most people never even ask themselves. These are all risk management decisions, and kids are making them without even realizing, having absolutely loads of fun. They're learning that sometimes the aggressive strategy works, and sometimes it bankrupts you. They're learning about balancing risk and reward. Seventh lesson, monopolies create power. When you own a complete set of properties in Monopoly, you can build on them, and suddenly your income potential explodes. That teaches kids about concentration and focus. It's better to own all the oranges than to own one of each color. Better to dominate in one sector, double down in your niche, than to spread too thin. And finally, the eighth lesson, the game doesn't last forever, and sometimes you lose. Not everyone gets to win all the time. Sometimes you make great decisions and still go bankrupt because someone else played better or got luckier. It is sometimes the roll of the dice, of being in the right place at the right time, and that's just life. Teaching kids to lose gracefully, to learn from their mistakes, and to come back stronger next time, that's incredibly valuable, and Monopoly also does that. Any sport, any game does that. I know my daughter's incredibly competitive, and she does doesn't like to lose, but sometimes it's important that these games do teach that as well. Let me share something personal with you. As I was telling you a little bit earlier, one of my best mates' dads absolutely loved Monopoly. He was a big property mogul up in the Northeast. I mean, he wasn't playing casually. It was like, let's play a board game. It would be on a Sunday night before school the next day, and he'd play it properly strategically. He wouldn't let us win. I remember some of the deals that we'd make and the way that he would look at us a little bit funny. Honestly, all of this stayed with me. He wouldn't just let us win. There was no dumbing it down. It was proper competitive Monopoly, and he would invariably win most times. And I realized that that was no fluke. And as kids at maybe 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, we were absorbing all of this. We were learning about strategy, about patience, about property ownership, about cash flow, about negotiation. We didn't know we were learning, but we just thought we were having fun playing a game. But now I look back after 25 years working in property, working as an estate agent, investor, developer, lender, broker, all of it. I can trace so many of my instincts back to those games of Monopoly. When I'm looking at a property deal now and thinking about whether to keep cash in reserve or deploy it all into a purchase, that's Monopoly. When I'm negotiating with a seller and trying to structure a win-win deal, that's Monopoly. When I'm thinking about where to invest based on location and rental yield and potential, that's Monopoly. The game genuinely helped me understand the world as I grew up. It gave me a framework for thinking about assets, income, strategy, and risk that most of my peers don't have or didn't have. And I didn't realize how valuable that was until I got much older and I saw many people struggle with these concepts because they were never exposed to them. That's why I'm so ridiculously passionate about this. It's not just nostalgia, although there is a lot of that, of course. It's genuine belief that these games played properly and with the right conversations around them can give kids a massive head start in life. Now, if we're talking about financial education and Monopoly, I have to talk about Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You probably heard about it, you probably read it. If you haven't, I mean, it's essentially the philosophy of Monopoly explained in book form. But those who haven't read it, and if you haven't, please do. It's a quick read and it'll change how you think about money. The core concept is this: there are assets and there are liabilities. Assets put money in your pocket and liabilities take money out of your pocket. Your house, the one that you live in, is not an asset unless it goes up in value, but for most people it's a liability. They're putting money into it regularly. It costs you money every month in mortgage payments, maintenance bills, and unless it goes up in value, it is a liability. A rental property, on the other hand, is an asset. Tenants pay you rent, which hopefully covers the costs and puts money in your pocket. This simple distinction is absolutely fundamental to building wealth, and most people never ever understand it. Everybody thinks that their primary residence is an asset because it's valuable, but if it's taking money out of your pocket every month, it's a liability. Robert Kiyosaki also talks about the difference between working for money and having money work for you. There's other books out there like The Richest Man in Babylon, which is also a good one. Most people work for money. They trade their time for a salary. Wealthy people have money work for them. They own assets that generate income, whether they're working or not. Now, don't get me wrong though. Business owners, entrepreneurs, people that create wealth, they work incredibly hard. But what they do is they set up the asset in a way so that in the future, they don't have to work as hard. So don't get that twisted, because some people do, and that's absolutely ridiculous. But guess what? That's exactly what Monopoly teaches you. When you own Mayfair and someone lands on it, you get paid. You didn't work for that money in that moment. You might have worked very hard for it. You've gone around the board a few times. You've made some decisions. You've had some good negotiations. But by the time you own that asset and you own it, it will pay you reoccurringly into the future. I mean, honestly, Rich Dad, Poor Dad should be required reading for every teenager. Honestly, every adult too. It's not a complex book. It's written in a very accessible way, and the lessons are timeless. The book also talks about financial intelligence and understanding money, understanding how it flows, how to make it work for you, and how to build wealth systematically. And a lot of that financial intelligence can be built through games like Monopoly when you're young. The younger you start the stuff, the better. Kiyosaki himself actually created a board game called Cash Flow, which we'll talk about in a minute, but specifically to teach the principles from Rich Dad, Poor Dad in game form, because he understood, just like I understand from my Monopoly experiences, that games are one of the best ways to learn about these concepts. So if you're a parent watching this, or an uncle or an aunt or a grandparent or a friend, whoever, buy Rich Dad, Poor Dad, read it yourself first, and then when your kids are 12, 13, 14 maybe, give it to them or read it with them and discuss the concepts. I know I'm going to absolutely do that. I honestly think that it could genuinely change the trajectory of their financial life. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to ask, do you have a property funding requirement or a property funding problem that needs a solution? If so, reach out to me at Merryoaks Property Finance. Merryoaks Property Finance is a brokerage that I set up in 2021 to support SME property investors and developers like myself, like you, with all of your funding requirements. So if it's development, bridging, commercial, anything property finance related, the more complex, the better as well, because we're very used to those types of things. If you're a portfolio landlord, whatever you might need, let us know. Reach out to us. Let's have a conversation and see where we go. Now back to the episode. I really hope you enjoy it. So Monopoly is brilliant. Of course, I've been talking about it, banging on about it, but it's not the only game that teaches financial literacy. Let me share some of the other games that I think are fantastic for different age groups and different lessons. First up is Cash Flow by Robert Kiyosaki. This is basically Monopoly for adults who read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's more complex, it's more realistic, and it teaches the exact concepts from the book. So you're trying to escape the rat race by building passive income that exceeds your expenses. You buy assets, real estate, businesses, stocks, and you're basically trying to generate enough cash flow to achieve financial freedom, which is the ultimate goal. I love Cash Flow because it's more sophisticated than Monopoly. They call it Monopoly on steroids. You deal with different asset classes. You deal with good debt and bad debt. You deal with cash flow statements. It's genuinely educational for adults, more so than kids even, who want to understand investing better. Play this game with teenagers when they're 15, 16, 17, and of course, as I said, with adults, and they'll understand investing better than most university graduates, I think. There's also Cash Flow for Kids, which is a simplified, younger version, maybe for 6 to 12-year-old. It teaches the same concepts, but in a more accessible way. It's colorful, fun, and kids will just love talking about assets and liabilities, about passive income, and about making money work for them. It's a really, really brilliant game for younger kids. But there's also Junior Monopoly for ages like 5 to 8. That's also a good one. I played it with my kid. I have the Peppa Pig version as well, so I've got 2 versions of that same game, and she absolutely loves it, and she understands these concepts of buying assets and how they pay you. And she wins. She beats me regularly. Not all the time, though. Junior Monopoly is a shorter game, but the concepts are simpler, and it teaches ownership, income, and basic money management, and it's a great stepping stone before they're really ready for full Monopoly. But another classic game that I've just started playing with my little one is Payday. I think I've got to check actually. I think it's from the same owners of Monopoly, but it's basically managing your monthly finances. You get paid on payday, but throughout the month you have bills to pay, unexpected expenses, you can buy assets, you can buy liabilities, you can flip businesses, opportunities to earn extra money. It teaches budgeting. It teaches that unexpected costs can happen. It teaches the importance of having savings to cover for emergencies. It's really, really valuable lessons. It's for age 8 to 12. My kid's 5 and I've already started playing it with her. Now here's another one that's really interesting. It's called Anti-Monopoly. This is a game that I bought recently, and it's actually created as a response to Monopoly. It is from the same people, and it's designed for slightly older kids, teenagers, adults, etc., to understand how the economy works from a different angle. In Anti-Monopoly, some players are monopolists trying to dominate the market, and others are competitors trying to create a fair market. It teaches about different economic systems, about the impact of monopolies on consumers, about regulation, about fair competition. It's more political and economic than Monopoly, the classic version. But for teenagers who are understanding all these concepts and going into the world, or adults as well that want to see the world played in a slightly different way, see how it works, see if it's fair, see if it can be made into reality, it is incredibly fascinating. So there are a lot of games that we can play, but I think if you just start with the Monopoly series, whether it's Junior Monopoly or the older version, honestly, that's a really great place to start. The sooner you start, the better. So let me bring this full circle and talk about why this matters beyond just playing games, because ultimately we're not talking about becoming better at Monopoly. We're talking about setting kids up for financial success in life so that they can strive towards financial freedom, and then they can do all the other wonderful things that life has to offer. Financial literacy is understanding money, understanding assets and liabilities, understanding cash flow and investing. These are skills that will serve your kids every single day of their lives. When they're 22 and deciding whether to buy a new car on finance or save that money to invest, financial literacy helps them make the right choice. When they're 28 and deciding whether to buy a property or keep renting, financial literacy gives them the framework, analyze that decision properly. When they're 35 and they're thinking about starting a business or building an investment portfolio, financial literacy means that they will understand those fundamentals better than anybody else. When they're 50 years old and planning for retirement, financial literacy means they've been building wealth systematically for decades and they're not panicking. I see so many people in their 30s, 40s, 50s who are financially illiterate. They don't understand mortgages, they don't understand compound interest, and they're making terrible decisions with credit cards. They have no investment strategy, and it's not their fault. They were never taught this stuff. But we can change that for the next generation. We can give our kids the knowledge and skills that we might not have had ourselves at that age. And here's the beautiful thing. It's not complicated. You don't need to be a financial expert to teach these kids these basics. Just buy Monopoly and play that game, and the lessons start to get learnt themselves. You just need to play games with them, have conversations, recommend good books, and be open to money in an age-appropriate way. In my case, those Monopoly games with my mate's dad genuinely shaped my career path. I went into an estate agency, then investing, then development, then finance. And would I have done all that anyway? Maybe, absolutely maybe. But I genuinely believe that those early exposures to property concepts and investment concepts and money concepts through Monopoly planted seeds that grew into my career and my passion. And even if your kids don't go into finance or property, even if they become teachers or doctors or engineers or artists, they still need to understand money. Everyone needs to understand money because everyone deals with it every single day. So here's my challenge to you. And I'm being absolutely serious about this. If you have kids in your life, your own kids or nieces, nephews, godchildren, neighbors' kids, whoever it might be, commit to playing Monopoly or one of these other financial literacy games with them regularly. Not once, regularly. Make it a thing. Make it fun. Make it competitive. Have conversations about it. Connect it to real life. Give them Rich Dad, Poor Dad when they're old enough, maybe 12 or 13, and read it with them. That simple concept of assets and liabilities. Assets put money in your pocket and liabilities take money out of your pocket. It's such a powerful concept in itself. Ask them what they think. Challenge them to spot assets and liabilities in their own lives and in the world around them. You don't need to make it formal or educational. Just play games, have fun, and let the learning happen naturally through repetition and conversation. I guarantee you in 10, 15, 20 years, those kids will thank you. They might not realize it all the time. They might even complain that Monopoly's boring. I get it. That might happen. And sometimes we did think that as well. We wanted to go outside and play football. But when they're adults making smart financial decisions that their peers aren't making, they'll remember these moments. They'll remember their uncle who always played Monopoly with them. They'll remember the conversations about assets and liabilities. They'll remember that learning that cash flow matters more than how much you earn. And those memories will have translated into wealth, security, and financial freedom. These are such important things, especially in today's world. That's the real power of these games. That's why Monopoly, despite being over 80 years old, is still one of the most valuable educational tools we have today. Right, let's wrap this up. Monopoly is not just a board game. It's a financial educational tool guised as entertainment. It teaches property investing, it teaches cash flow, negotiation, risk management, and strategic thinking. And if played properly with like having the right conversations, it can really give kids a massive head start in financial literacy. So what I'm saying is combine Monopoly with other games like Cash Flow and Payday and Junior Monopoly and Anti-Monopoly and all those other lovely games. Buy the books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Make it regular, make it fun, make it part of family life, and give your kids something truly valuable. I played Monopoly regularly as a kid, as I said before, and it genuinely helped me understand the world. So dust off that Monopoly set in your cupboard, get the kids together this weekend, set up the board and play properly. Not the quick version, the real version. If you found this video helpful, or if it's inspired you to pull out that Monopoly set and dust it off and play with your kids and spend some more quality time with the family, then please give us a thumbs up. And you know what? Drop us a comment in the notes below as well, because I want to know what games you play. I want to know if you've had a similar experience. I want to know if you feel like you've missed out. I want to have this engagement with you. So I really hope to hear from you soon. Hit the subscribe button. It helps me grow the channel as well and share more ideas about wealth, about property, investment, development, finance, all the things that I'm really super passionate about. Until the next time, keep building, keep learning, and remember, the best investment you can make is in the financial education of the next generation. And sometimes that investment looks like a board game on a Sunday afternoon. Until then, I'll see you on the next one.